Yeah, that's coming through. Just need to chuck it into presenter mode if you can.
Yeah. Okay, can you see that?
Perfect. Crystal clear.
Okay, so I'll give you a minute or two to just snap away, do what you need to do. And while you're doing that, I'll just give you a little bit of my coaching background. I was a coach educator at the FA. I worked in London and Hertfordshire. I was also an academy coach at Chelsea for 10 years. I was their under 13 coach, and in the last 2 years of my time at Chelsea, I had an amazing title of international youth director, and that got me traveling abroad. And I looked after clubs that were affiliated to Chelsea. And while I was out there, I got offered a 2-year contract and ended up staying for 8 years. So I had a good coaching career in America as well. And, you know, I've been privileged that coaching has taken me around the world. So if everybody snapped that, I'm going to start with a little video. You may not hear something for the first 10, 12 seconds, but you will get it in a moment. So just bear with this.
What if someone told me what confidence actually is? That whole saying of, you've got to believe in yourself more. What if someone had explained to me what that actually means and how I could actually do it? What if someone had told me that I could change my negative thoughts and the stories that I created about myself? What if someone had told me those negative thoughts and beliefs were not even true? What if someone could have helped me overcome my doubts and taught me to see failure as an opportunity to do better next time? What if someone had shown me how to deal with distractions, external noise, and the negative comments all of us get on social media? When I was at school, what if someone could have explained how to advance myself mentally and not just academically or physically? When I was released from a pro club, what if someone had shown me how to bounce back from rejection? And that somebody's opinion of me did not need to become my reality. What if someone told me that I could train myself to switch off that negative voice in my head that told me I was not enough? And what if that someone was my coach?
So hopefully that resonates with a few of you. And this is a quote that I saw not long after we wrote the course, and I thought, yes, it's so true. And that video actually is my story, because when I was a youngster, I was 6 years old, I was a Chelsea supporter, and I was lucky enough when I was 16, I was playing for the youth team. My dad wanted me to stay at school, so I didn't leave to sign apprentice, but I was playing really well in the youth team, and the manager of the club, Dave Sexton at the time, he asked the youth team manager to put me in the reserves. So, you know, one night we had a game against Tottenham, and if you looked at the programme of that night, I was probably the only name you wouldn't have known. And, you know, I walked into the dressing room, and my first thought was, what am I doing here? I can't be playing with these people. That, you know, I'm supporting them from the stands. So my, you know, mental side of it, the confidence side, had completely gone. And, you know, it led me to think later on in life, what if? And I'll come back to that as we go on. I just want you to have a look at this, and maybe in the chat, just bung your answer in. Have a look, see what you think. You know, is it technical skills? Is it tactical awareness? Is it physical prowess? Is it confidence that you would give to one of your players? And maybe, Tom, you can just give me an idea of what the numbers are. They coming in, Tom?
Thick and fast. You won't be
Good.
surprised to hear that confidence is coming up top trumps. Interesting point from Dave Bamford that confidence, because with that, all the others can begin to excel.
Yeah, no, that's so true, because confidence actually does underpin everything. You know, go back to my story that I said. At the same time, I was captain of England schoolboys at under 18, the same time as I'm playing for Chelsea, that is. So I don't think it was my technical ability that I was particularly worried about. It wasn't tactical awareness. I was okay with that. Physically, you know, I'd played at that level. So, you know, confidence, that was the one thing. But, you know, as we've said, you know, and going back to the video, what if my coach would have told me that? What if the coach would have said something to me before the game? What if a coach all the way through, since I was there, you know, from the age of 12, you know, would have shown me some of these things that I'm about to show you? Would I have been a professional footballer? I don't know. But, you know, the chances are I would have had a better crack. But, you know, there lies the problem, guys. You know, you've said, and I've done this so many times, and it always comes back confidence. So 100% of us near enough agree that that's what's needed. And yet, how many of you, hand on heart, actually train it? Now, I don't blame you, because where do you find out about it? And that's why, since I've retired, I thought, I've got to do something about this, because when I was a coach educator, and we called it the 4 pillars then, I think it's called the 4 corners now, but that structure would have collapsed, because we all coach technical, we all coach tactical, we all coach physical. None of us, and that included me as an A licensed coach and coach educator, I didn't know it. But, you know, subsequently, since I have been doing this, I just think, you know, it should be included. So it's time now for me to say, you know, let's teach it, not tell it. You know, it's like all I ever heard while I was growing up is, you know, so and so, you know, Neil or Tom, you could be a great player if you believed in yourself, or, you know, you had confidence, like you can go and buy it in Tesco's. So we can't just put an arm around a player and say, it's okay, you know, believe in yourself more. You know, we have to teach it. So we came up with a coaching course that made it simple. Trust me, guys, I am a technical coach. I'm a tactical coach. I'm a physical coach. I am not a psychologist. I'm not coming at this from a sports psychology background. I'm coming at it from one of you. You know, so I'm just saying, it's got to be simple. It's got to be easy. So the 3 simple steps that we had is supply them with, you know, what to coach, support them with methods of how to do it, and then underpin it with strategies that show you it's working. And that's something that I hope I'll show you as we go along. So what does the course cover? It's in 5 modules. If you did it in one go, it would take about 3 hours, but there's no need to do it in one go. You could take your time, do it in one module at a time, or parts of a module, and come back to it. And, you know, it's safe for you as you go along. So the first module is about confidence, and where does it come from? You know, confidence is not something that just happens. You can't just say to someone, you know, look, believe in yourself. show some confidence. It's about, it happens because of you and the actions you take. It's knowing, going back to the old quote about, you can fail, but don't give up. It's teaching kids that, focus on what they're good at. 99% of them are in their team because they've got something to offer. Concentrate on that, focus on those skills, and don't worry about what anybody else can do, so long as you and they are improving.
And you're.
And you're. Sorry, I didn't get that. I don't know who that was. And then, preparation is key to confidence. I look back at my life in football and outside of football, and I can remember sort of 3 instances where I was really confident I was going to do well. One was my French O level, one was my driving test, and one was my A license course. And I was really confident I was going to pass because I'd done everything, over and over again, and knew that I was comfortable in it. And when we talk about preparation, probably before every training session and every game that you have, you probably do a warm-up. All of you, I'm sure, will do some technical stuff, passing. Most or some may do some tactical little preparation. So many will do some speed work and something to get the lads warmed up, or girls. How many actually prepare the mental side? And one of the things we did when we was in America is we did this before every training session. We did it after every training session as well. We did it before every game. Just little things that prepared the kids mentally. And a lot of the parents, were saying to us, some of these things that you're doing is probably more important to my child than the football side. So think about what you do to prepare your kids mentally before a game, before training. We'll go through it. Course module 2, the confidence spectrum. So confidence is not a level playing field, and that includes the pros as well, not just kids. Their confidence levels go up and down. We hear about it with lots of players. So it goes from low self-esteem, where the young kids have got no confidence in themselves at all. They don't think they're good enough. They keep telling themselves they're not good enough. And then it goes along through self-doubt, where they get a little bit better, but they've still got their doubts and anxieties. And then further along the spectrum, they get some confidence. Maybe at some time have a few good games, and their confidence starts to grow. And then that goes, a few good games, a goal scorer scores 4 or 5 goals week after week, go to supreme confidence. And then 1 or 2 may tip over the edge and become overconfident, bordering on arrogant. So the skill of this part of the course is you understanding where your players are along that spectrum at any given time, and can you move them up if they are a little bit self-doubt, low self-esteem. Can you move them along the line? And again, there are resources to help you do that. Module 3, I think, is arguably the most important, and this is about changing negative thoughts and turning them into positive beliefs. So it's done by simple analogies. Again, this is not rocket science, but if you were listening to music on the radio and you didn't like what you were listening to, you turn it over. You wouldn't sit and listen to the same thing that you're not enjoying. So we're saying the same thing. If you say something to yourself, and people can be their worst, the worst part of this is sometimes what you say to yourself, not worrying about external noises, but what you say to yourself can have more damage than someone else saying it. But then imagine if you could have a trigger switch inside your head that every time one of these negative thoughts go through your mind, like you made a mistake in a game, and you're worrying about what the coach is thinking or what this one's thinking, and you don't want to touch the ball again. But imagine having a little trigger switch that immediately switches you on to, no, think about something else. Think about, what you can do to make it positive. And then, this is a skill, like a technical skill. It can't be mentioned once and that's it. It's got to be repetition, repetition, repetition. Exactly the same as if you were teaching, the Cruyff turn or any technical skill. It's never done once. It's repeated and repeated. So the analogy I use is like a GPS system. If you go to a new club or a new venue, or you don't know where you're going, you put on your sat nav, and if you by the end of the week, if you've been to the same ground 4 or 5 times, you're not using it anymore. And this is the same thing. Through repetition, it will become a habit. And in this instance, you're teaching them good habits. What does it cover on the field and off the field? On the field, as you can see, and there's others, but they're pretty straightforward. Changing coaches, some kids get used to a coach, particularly one that thinks they're one of the better players and they're always looked after, always get a starting spot, etc., etc. And then that coach leaves and suddenly someone else comes in and it's a different regime. Confidence may go down a bit. Injuries and rejection. Again, you look at rejection. Many pro clubs, and I was involved with some. They think they're helping kids. Yeah, we help kids get a new club. If we don't leave them high and dry, if we're releasing them, we help them get to a new club. Well, that's not helping them, because you can imagine the rejection when they're 12, 13, and they get released from their pro clubs or academies, or maybe they don't get into the school team or the district team or something like that. You just telling them they could go somewhere else doesn't really help. So a little, you'd use football as the hook. And I would talk about, Declan Rice. Declan Rice got released by Chelsea when he was 13 or 14 years old. And now they'd buy him back for 150 million if they could. So, use football as an analogy to sort of teach these kids that, instead of responding with despair, respond with the determination that someone like Declan Rice did to say, no, I'll prove you wrong. So, there's loads of others in that category as well. But it's off the field that, I wanted to sort of highlight. And I've got here Samuel's story. So when I was doing the under 13s, kids can come in for a trial for 6 weeks. And well, I had one boy and he'd been with me for 3 weeks and he wasn't playing particularly well, quite poor, in fact. And our education and welfare officer came round, and one Sunday we were playing, and he said to me, Jeff, how's Samuel doing? And I said, Jerry, he's really poor. What's he doing here? And he said, need to give him a break, Jeff, because I've been up to his school. His mum and dad have split up. The boy's in pieces. He's getting into fights every day. And we really need to help him. And I drove away after that game thinking, I know nothing about these kids other than, can they shoot? Can they pass? Can they dribble? Can the goalkeeper make saves? And I thought I should know more. That's my job. So the same, I say to you, when your leading goal scorer, goes 4 or 5 weeks without scoring and not playing particularly well, it may not be extra practice that he needs. Maybe, just maybe, he or she is getting bullied at school. Maybe it's in the club. The abuse on social media now is growing. Now, I know that there are official things that we should and could be doing, if something seems dangerous, and those protocols are in place. But I'm just saying, to open the coaches' eyes to thinking, okay, I'm going to talk to these kids, throughout the season. I'm going to listen to what 1 or 2 of them have to say. Maybe outside football, maybe at school. How are they doing? How's things at home? Have you got brothers, sisters? How are they doing? Etc. Etc. So I made that my business, and I'll show you how you can integrate that into your training sessions in a moment. And then the final
Jeff,
module.
sorry.
Yeah.
We've had a question. I think it's probably good to chuck it in before you continue.
Yeah, sure.
This is in Dave's words, not mine. Probably a
Yeah.
daft question. How would I be able to identify or measure the confidence level of any of my players? And then it goes on just to reference that the different areas they may feel confident in.
Sure. I'm going to come on to that. Who was that? Dave? Did you say?
Dave Bamford, yes.
Dave, I'm going to come on to that. If you give me a little bit of time, I'll come on to that in a moment. How you can do this and the resources that will be at your disposal to do it. So bear with me, and I will
Magic.
definitely come back to that. So this module, setting the right environment, it's setting the environment to develop confident young people. We know 99% of the kids that we train are not going to be professional footballers, but they may go on to higher education, they may go to university, they will go into the workplace, and it's our job to produce confident young children. So just look at these may be people hopefully the negative ones are not you, but just have a look and think, yeah, this, I can see why this, being a bully and shouting and screaming at kids and blaming them for everything and telling them what to do all the time, may not help confidence. It's got more chance of the kids giving up the game than it is to make them better players. Are you, a positive coach? Do you encourage? Are you someone that is loyal and, don't just look after the elite players? So, it talks about that, and it gives you an insight into helping to set the right environment to develop, as I say, confident young children rather than professional footballers. This is the unique differentiator, and I'll come to you in a moment again, Dave, in where this is. Again, because of my background and where I was, I am not coming at this again, looking at it as you do the course, and once you've finished, that's it. Thank you very much. You're on your own. Because I'm thinking, if this was me, I might do the course and I might enjoy the course, but I'm not 100% sure how I implement it with the children in my team. So I'm looking to give you that as well. So, we've done some workshops, which you can do face to face, which you can do online, like we're doing now. And this is something in, I said in America that we invited the parents in after every training session for them to be involved in it as well. And this is where they became, sort of our cheerleaders, if you like, because this is, truth. They were saying to me, I don't know what you've done with these kids, but my daughter offered to walk the dogs. She's never done that in her life. My son cleared the table and put stuff into the dishwasher. He's never done that. And, because what we're teaching them is responsibility, is decision making, is having the confidence to do things without being told what to do. So the things that we'll put in place do work, I promise you. And we've done this with workshops off the field, work practices on the field, and some resources, which will answer Dave's question in a moment. And when I talk about a workshop template, it's a session that you could do with your children, and I've structured it. You certainly don't have to, but I've structured it in the same way as I structure a training session. There's a little warm up. So, what's my topic? We'd have a chat, little interactive question and answer chat, and then I'll put on a little functional practice where put the children in, groups, small groups, or in pairs, so they can chat about some of the things I'm going to ask them on the topic. But they can talk to each other, so they've got a buddy. Then I'll play a little game, and the first of the groups or the pairs to answer the questions that I'm going to give them. So there's a little bit of fun involved in it as well. And we'd finish with a recap and a cool down of question and answers of what we just spoke about. And then the important thing is it working? So here's a guide of saying, this is some of the practices that I'm going to ask you to do at the end of each session or during a week or after a game. What went well? What didn't go so well? And what would you want to do about it? Another week, it may be, what did you do to show confidence in training, at school? So these are the things that you can ask them. And after a little while, they will be telling you what they're doing. They will be wanting to write these things down. I'm asking for one sentence. I'm not asking for an essay. One or two of them may not do it. But in the main, this is something they'll want to do. And it gives you something to talk to them about as well. So this is it. Did you have a negative thought in the game this week? Was there a time when you changed that thought to a positive belief? Write it down. Discuss it with them during the week. I saw you wrote this. What was your thoughts? How did you feel? And if, as you're going along through the season, then, I personally did it after every game because I wanted them to get used to it and they wanted to do it. One sentence. That's all. What did you do to show confidence this week in the game? What did you do in school? Tell me about that, because I'm interested in them. What did you do at home? And they wrote this down. It works, trust me. And then a training session on the field. So all the time we do training sessions, we write down what we're going to do, and that's fine. And we write down some of the key factors we want from that. So all I've done here is to say, instead of writing down the key factors as all being, the technical side and the tactical side, what about the physical? What about the mental side? Sorry. So, to give you an example, I would outline the game we're going to play, and you put them in two teams, up to the two teams to come up with their own strategies. How you're going to play this game, and I'd listen. I'd have them either side of me, and I'd listen. Who are the ones that are the leaders? Who are the ones that don't say anything? And I'd sort of talk to them. During the game, I may say, I noticed you didn't say anything about, how the game should be played. What do you think? And I would get this from them. The example I've got here is playing a game. We call it soccer bingo. You may have played it, may not. And they have to score from different situations: a one-touch finish, scoring from outside the box, score from a cross, score from a weaker foot. And I'd say each of you have to choose for your team, what one are you going to take? And I may even challenge a player. I may even say to one of the players that I know never uses his weaker foot, or her using her weaker foot, I may say, I want you to take that one for your team. You have to score with your weaker foot. And then I'd ask afterwards, how did you feel when I said you had to do it? Because I want them to say, to a certain extent, I can't score with my weaker foot. And then we talk about that trigger. If you tell yourself you can't do it, you won't. But if you tell yourself you can do it and you're going to have a good go, then you might. So it's an old quote: whether you think you can or whether you think you can't, you're right. So the idea is, think you can. May need improving, but there you go. You've had a stab at it. You've not told yourself you can't do it. Yeah, you struggled. That's okay, because you're going to get better. And the more we do things like that in the correct manner, the more the players are going to be more confident in themselves to do it. And then write down afterwards what went well, what didn't go so well, what went well. I scored with my weaker foot today. Fantastic. So that type of thing is building up. They've played the game exactly as you're doing in your training session. The kids have had fun, they've enjoyed it, but you're seeing a different skill here, as well as the fact that, you know, that they're using their technical skills and tactical skills and physical prowess. You're now including and integrating mental skills into the practice. Who is this for? Licensed coaches, for sure. But, you know, all the volunteer coaches, because what is in the course and what I'm telling you now is not rocket science, right? It's not deep-rooted psychology. This is very simple, basic stuff that we could all be learning from and showing and teaching. The community scheme coaches, for sure, phys ed teachers. This is already going into the WFA, Wheelchair Football Association. They've been tremendously supportive in this. And, you know, I've put down here, because I know it works, trust me, parents. You know, us as part-time coaches are with the kids maybe 2-3 times a week, probably maximum. Parents are with their children 7 days a week. How they talk to their children in the car to going to the game, or in the car coming home from a game, or when they've had a bad spell of bad run of games, loss of form, how they can help, how they can talk to their own child. So, you know, I wouldn't dismiss parents wanting to get involved in this sort of program. This is the team behind it. There's myself, as you see my background. Michael Bill, who many of you probably know. Michael was with me at Chelsea. Fantastic coach. You know, yes, he's been in and out of a few teams recently, but tremendous coach. Sharon, my colleague and co-author, she's in America at the moment, and her background was music. You know, technically it's the same thing. You know, those that had the skill to perform in front of the bigger crowds, not afraid of going to auditions, etc., they were the ones that succeeded. The ones that didn't have the confidence fell by the wayside. And then there's John. John was with Gareth Southgate when the current team were 17, 18, 19 years old. John was with those, and he's also been with the British Olympic Association. So that's the team behind this, and I'm more or less the face of it. The business model is that we will only be going and dealing with Sheffield County FA. So everything and anybody that wants to purchase the course has to go through the association. Told you about the completion time, suitable on all your devices. We do give a certificate at the end of it, and now, you know, delighted to say that, you know, it counts as part of your CPD. The course fee, which I'll talk about in a second, is inclusive of all the resources that we've spoken about, and the donation is something that we were passionate about. We wanted a children's mental health charity to be able to benefit from this. So with every sale that we make, there is something to go back to children's mental health charities. The course will be in the region of, we haven't spoken of, but it will be in the region of about £50. Yes, it's a commercial venture, but the main thing is we want, you know, not only the coaches, the parents, the players to benefit, but the mental health charity as well. So we can all be doing some good. Like I said, we know we're not teaching kids to be professional footballers. So I'm using football as the hook here. in time to come, maybe change the shape of the ball, and it applies to all sports. But we're educating for life through a child's passion for sport. So I'm just using football as a hook. For me, there hasn't been a better time to impact and implement this change, because all I hear now on the news, on TV programs, pundits of confidence and lack of confidence and mental health issues, etc., etc. So now I think it's the time to do something about it, and open now to any questions that you may have. I'll just come out of that and stop sharing. Is that okay, Tom?
Awesome. So yeah, thanks for the insight into confidence and what your business does. For those coaches that are on, there's been a couple of questions in the chat. It's now your opportunity to sort of pick Jeff's brains around confidence and how he implements his strategies and so on, and any advice that you would like. What I will do, not tonight, it'll be tomorrow at some point, possibly Wednesday mornings, I will send you all the information you need, linked to what Jeff does, and the course that he's spoken about there, which gives you more in-depth detail into this area. So I'll get all of that information to you post-course, but please use this opportunity now to certainly ask some questions.
Sorry, Tom, can I just come back to Dave, because maybe I didn't answer directly, but now that you've seen, Dave, that there's resources to every module. One of the resources we have with module 2, for example, that was a spectrum from low self-esteem through to arrogance. So I'm encouraging in that each coach writes down their thoughts on every player, where they see that player in their team, and then give that same thing out to, once you've done one or two of these things with the children, is saying to them, where would you see yourself from low self-esteem through to the arrogance, and see when and how you can match your answers, and then challenge yourself. For those that have self-doubts or low self-esteem, how can you push them up towards confidence and supreme confidence? Those that are, you feel a little bit overconfident at times, how can you bring them back? And repeat that on a monthly or bi-monthly basis, so that you're always looking at where you see your players at any given time, and there's a resource there to exactly do that for each player in your team. So hopefully, Dave, that answers what you're thinking.
Dave has got his hand up, so Dave, if you want to follow up, unmute yourself.
Okay, yeah. I think one of the things that steered my question was my old team, I coached from under 6 right through to under 18.
Yeah.
The thing about confidence seems to be a bit of a roller coaster through the ages, depending on maturation, experience, changes of schools, changing of, some are going to jobs, some are going to university, and it's a real roller coaster. And sometimes you think, okay, that player's got his confidence cracked. Yeah. And then a year later, he's bottom of the heap. He's feeling like he's the worst thing since sliced bread.
Sure.
And it's just like I've just seen it over the years, and with the groups of players I've had over the years. The thing about confidence is just being a complete roller coaster. And as a coach and somebody who's not just a football coach, but I think I try and guide players in all the 4 corners in terms of their own development as football players and as people. Mm-hmm. It's staying very alert. So you think you've got somebody at a confidence level that works for them and works for the team and the group.
Sure.
And all of a sudden, bang! You've missed something.
Mm-hmm. That's where I'm saying to you on a regular basis, after training, after games, just randomly asking them, how did they show confidence this week in school? So that all the time they're they have an idea because you've been teaching them. It's exactly like you would their technical skills. You've been saying sort of things about confidence and the mental skills, and they're writing this down. So they'll be so much more self-taught and not coach-driven by the time you sort of get into that, and that's where you want them to be. And you know, your point to saying kids being up and down and roller coaster and all that lark, you could take, you know, top professional footballers. I'm watching, you know, I'm a Chelsea supporter, so I'm watching Sterling, and I'm thinking he cannot be as bad as he's looking at the moment, because the guy's played for the top teams in the country. He's played for his country numerous times. I mean, if you see him at the moment, it's like he can't pass the ball.
He didn't do a great job of the penalty yesterday.
Exactly that. And, you know, so, okay, anybody can miss a penalty, but then you could see the way he came up. That's not a confidence strike.
No.
You know, and you know, he'd do that with his eyes closed in training. But, you know, so it happens to, you know, top professionals. It will happen to children. And that's how we can try to guide them as they go along. Not just talk to them about, you know, how you feeling today? You confident? Yeah. And walk away. How are you showing confidence? How are we as coaches displaying it to them? How do they, you know, get through it? How, when they have this negative thought, etc., etc.
That's great. Thank you, Jeff. Thank you.
Thank you, Dave. Thank you.
Okay, next question. I have a question also, of course, but I'll do James's question next. So, how would you deal with someone that has social skills issues, like shy or behavior issues, and how does that impact when you're trying to teach them confidence?
Sure. So if I go back to the analogy of that, you know, the soccer bingo, the game, for example, you know, so I would look at them and see if they choose, you know, what they choose in that game. You know, and if it was you, Tom, that was this child, I'd say, Tom, what did you choose? What you got? How are you going to score for your team? Oh, I'm going to have a shot from outside the area. Good. Do you think you could do it? You think you're good enough? Now, if they say to me, no, I can't really shoot from outside the area. Okay, so how are you going to score? What are you going to do? You know, so I'd be talking to them and say, you know, again, if you think you can, you will. If you think you can't, you won't. So why not just try and change it to say, yeah, I'm going to have a go. You may miss, doesn't matter, you missed the goal. Have three attempts, see how you do. And, you know, build it up like that. If they score, you know, and you high five them, they're going to feel so good. If they didn't score, okay. Next time we play this game, do you want to do that again, or do you think I can't do that? They'll say, no, I'm going to have another try at that. Okay, practice it at home, practice it wherever. When you come back to it, you'll be great at scoring that. You volunteer for that and see how you feel when you've done it. I'm not saying it's going to make them great players overnight, but I would look to challenge them and help them and support them in doing that. Talk to them, get what
Awesome.
they feel.
Okay, we have James Morley's got his hand up. I'm going to throw my question in before I forget it, and then we'll go to James. Mine's extremely selfish. It's in the context of under 10 players. What would good or positive sort of, if I was to ask them, when did you show confidence, or when did you show confidence at football? What does good look like in terms of response for young players 9 and 10? What are like some of the things I want to be looking for as a coach to go, oh, they get this, that they are starting to identify things? And then also, have you got any examples of you mentioned not buzzwords, like trigger words to flick my switch? Have you got any examples that I'm thinking about? A couple of players that I work with that can go from high confidence to a couple of knockbacks within 10 minutes, and suddenly it's rock bottom and they don't want to try anything. Sure. How do or any examples of like those triggers that you mentioned to try and flick the switch for them?
Sure. Well, in terms of flicking the switch, you know, they could have fun with it, you could have fun with it, or it could be very simple. sort of minute they get this negative thought, just switch on, change the channel, kick it out, things like, just simple password. I remember going back to that Tottenham Chelsea reserve game. I remember, making a bad pass, and my first thought was the manager, Dave Sexton, is up in the stand. My first thought was, oh, what's he thinking? He must think I'm rubbish. The last thing I want to be thinking about is that. If I knew then what I know now, I'd have said, right, switch on. Next pass got to be good. That kind of thing. Give me the ball again. I want that ball again to make the next pass. Now, guys, everybody listening, none of these things are going to happen overnight. It's repetition, repetition, repetition. So get them to come up, they might have a bit of fun, especially your 10-year-old kids might have a bit of fun with, what's a trigger word you could come up with? Every time you have a negative thought or you make a mistake, what's a little word that you could tell yourself that's going to bounce you back? Let them have fun with that word, whatever it is. And, okay, I want to see that. I want to see what you do if you make a mistake or a bad pass, or, tell yourself you can't do something. I want to know what your trigger word is. And what did you say to yourself? How did you get out of it? Have fun with it, build, especially the young kids, build it up and let them play with it and let them grow from it. Did you do it? What did you say to yourself? That kind of thing.
Awesome. Right, I will warn you, I asked for more questions and there's 6 loaded. But James, do you want to unmute yourself and ask your question?
Yeah. Hi, Jeff.
Hi.
So I work for Sheffield United Women's Academy. So you mentioned the academy earlier. I'm going to be honest, confidence in our academy is an absolute minefield, because everyone knows that in the season, if they continue to underperform, they're not going to get into next year. And it's a bit of a slippery slope where players start to struggle, and then the reviews are quite tough when we have those conversations, and you have to set expectations, but then at the same time, you want to continue to give them confidence to grow and play. But then if we give them too much confidence, they might think they're playing well, and then at the end of the season, they get released and they go, well, where's that come from? So it's a bit of a minefield. In the sort of stuff that you're talking about there, does that cover the sort of context within an academy, or is it sort of focused in just generalization in terms of grassroots?
No, definitely. I mean, I'll give you an example. I won't tell you the club. My grandson's friend plays for a pro club academy under 13, and he got his midterm Christmas report. This was a while ago, and it said basically, technically, short passing, long passing, good, strikes the ball well with both feet. It said tactically good, aware of when to press, when not to press. Physically, good recovery runs, good sprint speed, and mentally needs to improve his leadership skills. So his dad knows through my son-in-law. His dad knows that I was at Chelsea, and he said to my son-in-law, do you think Jeff might help James? The boy's name is. Do you think he might be able to help James? So I said, yeah, absolutely, of course I will. So I had the type of workshop I said to you. I said to James, okay, that's great. It says here that your technical skills, strike the ball with both feet well, good short passing, long passing. I said, do you ever sort of practice that? Oh yeah, of course we do. We do lots of passing and shooting and that sort of thing. I said, go, okay, great. And I said, and tactically, know when to press, know when not to press. Is that something you ever train with a coach? Yeah, sure. We always do tactical stuff. Okay. And physically, speed work and that, is that something you do in training? Yeah, every training session includes some speed work and all that sort of thing. And leadership skills, you train that? No, we've never done leadership skills, never done anything like that. That's why I wanted to get on to you to see if you could help. So I did. I did a little workshop on leadership skills, which I'm happy to share with you another time. And great. Dad said, you know, really enjoyed it. About a month later, his dad phones me up. He said, thank you so much, Jeff. You know, James is doing so well at the moment. His academy coach, you know, he said he's really impressed with what he's done and how he's playing. And the academy manager came up and said to him, he's really pleased that he's taken on board what was said about developing his leadership skills. So I said to him, do me a favor, would you go up to the academy manager and say to him, does he think those leadership skills sort of came to James overnight when he was sleeping? Because, you know, I'm amazed at a pro club that would say he's pleased the fact that he's mentioned he needs to improve his leadership skills, and they think his leadership skills have come on because they told him that. And that's where, you know, I'd come at this from. We have to now teach these topics. We can't just tell them. He had no idea. He didn't want to tell them that. He had no idea what was meant by needs to develop leadership skills. So, you know, it's at all levels, including many academies. Not every academy, you know, I'm sure there are lots of, you know, so much good work going on, and I'm not rubbishing it at all. But in this particular club, a fairly leading club, it wasn't available. So I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, thanks, Jeff.
Awesome. Right. I'm going to ask some questions. Sean, don't worry. I'm not forgetting you. I'm just going to put them in order. Hopefully give Jeff a few straight bats, him some easy quick wins, and then some of the more deeper in-depth ones. So first one, I coach an open age women's team. Confidence levels are different for each player. Most would benefit from a high level of self-belief, belief and self-esteem. Do you think the content of your course would be equally applicable to open age players?
Yes, definitely.
I knew that was an easy win for you. Next one. Do you think someone can be quietly confident, or would you expect that someone that is confident clearly displays it? That is a very good question.
It's a very good question. And I think to have an inner confidence and, you know, go about your job quietly and effectively and efficiently, perfect, you know, and don't need to shout from the rooftops that I'm a confident player. Doesn't need to happen. What would be good to see, and I would look at particularly, you know, players that, you know, make a mistake or two, or, you know, definitely not having a good game. Maybe a goalkeeper that lets in an easy goal or misses a cross. You know, how does he or she respond to that afterwards? Maybe in the first minute, they've, you know, someone's given them a back pass and they've missed the ball and it's gone in the goal. How does that affect them for the rest of the game? I'd be interested to see how they respond. And, you know, if it's they just get on with their job and it's not affected them, fantastic. If it sends them to pieces, we have to help pick them up and, you know, show them that, you know, this has happened to many top goalkeepers before, and, you know, how do they deal with it? And this is how we have to get on with it. So, you know, it's a different levels, and every player can act to it differently, but definitely do not have to shout it from the rooftops.
Awesome. Okay, right. Next question. I will go to Sean's now. So a problem I have right now is, how do I get a player who is very confident in training to take that confidence into games? And I'm sure that is a very, very common question across the 30-something people that are on this call.
If I was on this call when my son was playing, I would have asked the same question, because, you know, in training, great little player, in matches couldn't reproduce that same level of confidence. And this is how we have to work with them. You know, so it's not a one size fits all, but, you know, that's such a great common point with so many. So we'd have to talk to them. We'd have to put on some of these practices I'm talking about. We'd have to, you know, get them to write down their feelings. We'd have to get, you know, I would have said to my son, you know, how did you show confidence on the field? What, you know, what negative thought went through your mind when, you know, if I'm watching him, when the ball was in that position and you did that? What went through your mind when it didn't work out? You know, I knew his head went down. I wanted to say, yeah, I got my head down, but, you know, that didn't happen for long because I felt I knew what I've got to do better next time. So if I'd have known then, I'd have been putting these practices in with my own son. I didn't know it. And that's why it's important that, you know, we do the course, but then we follow up with all these things for not just a week or two, but consistently. And, you know, I can tell you, you know, from factual experience, the kids want to do it. They want to do it. They want to be part of this if we do it correctly.
Awesome. Okay, next one. And again, actually, selfishly, I want the answer to this as well because this strikes a chord with me. How do you tackle confidence with the physical side of the game? So the fear of getting hurt, small players mismatch against physically more developed players.
Yeah, again, not an easy one answer fits all. But I would guess it's that feeling of, you know, someone, I can't do this, or doesn't matter. I may take a knock, but he's not going to get the better of me, or she's not going to get the better of me. You know, I'm going to have a go. I'm going to do the best I can, and if he or she beats me once, won't happen again. You know, that's the mindset that I'm looking to get out of the young kids. And I'll say, look, he or she's a lot bigger than you. You may well get beaten once or twice. How are you going to deal with it? How are you going to feel? How did you feel, you know, at the end of the game? How did you feel when he or she scored the first goal in, you know, after 5 minutes? What went through your mind? And, you know, I want it to be, you know, I hope she gets taken off, or I hope the manager takes me off and substitutes me. Or is it, yeah, okay, I know she scored the first goal, but, you know, my mindset was she ain't going to get the next one. She's not going to get any more. And that's what I want them after a while to be thinking. Now, again, I know you may be thinking, Jeff, you want utopia. I know it's not going to happen overnight to every player and suddenly they're all going to be brilliant. It's not going to happen. But if we can affect one or two players, you know, each week, each month, at the end of the year, we've affected everybody in one or two games. Again, it's an ongoing process, like everything else. You know, someone scores a brilliant goal one week, you know, weaker foot shot into the top corner. Not going to happen every week, but the fact they've done it, fantastic. Keep working on it, keep building it, keep growing it, keep developing it. It's ongoing, never stops.
Awesome. Right. I'm ticking them off as I read them. Right. Neil Midgley. On the whole, my team is low on confidence, but one of the best players is arrogant and critical of teammates, which makes them less confident. Any suggestions for dealing with this?
Yeah. Again, if you look at that, the module on overconfidence and where it can take players and where it can lead them, and then you'd have to bring that out in your session, whether it's one-on-one. I wouldn't belittle, you know, the player in front of others, but I'd talk to them and, you know, show them, you know, which you can take from the course, or you'll get ideas from the course on how it's dealt with. And so, you know, I think there's a boxing one on there. Have a look at this. Why do you think he got knocked out? Because, you know, he was, you know, overconfident in thinking this is easy. And as you saw at the end, it wasn't easy. You know, came unstuck, got knocked out. So, you know, what does that suggest to you? And have this conversation so that, you know, never underestimate opponents. You may have beat them 5-0 last week in the league, and now you've drawn them in the cup next week. The whole game starts afresh. It's not the same game as last week. So we've got to go out with the same attitude as we did last week, because, You know, we can all go back to loads of times in certainly FA Cup football when the underdogs and the minnows have beaten the top clubs, and it happens across every sport. So, you know, show that respect to everybody, and preparation is the key. You know, if you don't prepare because you think I don't have to this week because it's that easy team we beat a couple of weeks ago, chances are you as an individual will not have a good game, and collectively the team may come unstuck and get beat. So from the course, I would take that into my discussion with the individual and or the group.
Nice. Right. Last couple. If a player is really struggling in a game, is it better for their confidence to try and keep them involved or sub them off? Is it more of a confidence not being subbed off? I've previously withdrawn a player to chat to them and then reintroduce them so they can hopefully have a different experience.
I, I don't say what I would do definitely and wouldn't be the same all the time, but I would, you know, ask that player and say, look, you know, what did you think went well? What didn't go so well? And what can you do about it? What do you want to do about it? And you know, that have that discussion with that player to say, okay, this time, you know, when you go into the game next week, you're going to start. You know, I'll tell you now, you're going to start. And you know, what do you want to do? Where, you know, when you play, you know, is it a forward? Is it a midfield player? Is it a defender? Give me 2 or 3 things you want to do in that game, and we'll see whether, you know, you've done them. Is it a forward? I want to see you have 3 shots on target in this game. Did you achieve it? You know, and if you didn't, what can you do better next time? So it's that kind of thing, looking at individuals and how you can help the individual, you know, and consequently the team, but how these individuals can help themselves. Everyone will have a bad game. Don't beat yourself up. Don't dwell on it too much. Don't beat yourself up about it. What didn't go so well? What did you want to do that didn't go so well? Now, how can you do it? How do you think you can do it? The answers are not all going to come from me. This is going to come from the player, because I want them to understand what they're going to do and how are you going to do it. And I'll give you every help. And, you know, but it's going to come from you. And there, you know, ultimately that will be, you know, we get the positive side of it. You know, we're not worried about whether you make a bad pass, whether your shot misses. What are you going to do next time?
Okay, last question. Is confidence regarded as an emotion or something else? Can someone feel confident, or does someone know? How do they know they're confident? And I'm guessing that's probably it. We need to teach them to know what it feels like, I imagine.
That's right. I mean, it is to, in the relevance of football, it is that, you know, you don't have that fear of making a mistake. You know, the Michael Jordan quote that I was referring to is, you know, he said he missed, you know, I think he, you know, so many penalties in his career that made him a better player, because every time he did make a mistake, instead of, you know, fearing that mistake or fearing what's going to happen, his attitude was, I know what I've done wrong. I know why I missed it. Next time it will be better. And that spurred him on. And that's the kind of thing we want to get through to every player. You know, I kind of get this impression, if anybody's interested in cricket, I kind of get this impression, you may have heard of Bazball. It's a new, you know, cricket manager that took over the England team, New Zealand guy, and Ben Stokes taking over as captain. And, you know, they've transitioned a team that was sort of pretty much poor, going downhill, not winning games, to now getting into a position where they don't fear losing. I'm not saying for 1 minute they win every game. They haven't. They've just lost a series to India. But in every single game, it was a challenge. It was a battle. India knew You know, England, it could have gone England's way. It didn't. But the attitude of the leadership is, don't fear that. Don't even worry about what went wrong. What went right? What did you do well? What can you do better next time? Don't go out there with fear. Go out there with the resilience that, you know, if I make a mistake, doesn't matter. No one's going to go through games without making a mistake. But I'm going to do what I know I'm good at, work on my strengths, and get better for that. And that's the attitude and mindset that you want to develop into the smallest of, you know, children up to the, you know, senior age groups. If they play like that, if they, you know, you will have a team that wins more games than loses, but enjoys their game because they're getting better and improving.
Awesome. And you have completed all the questions. So thank you very much for your time. I think a big takeaway for me and for the coaches on there, for especially those that have joined us over the course of the 7 workshops we've done this season, there's been a big focus on the individuals that make up your group. Jeff's mentioned many times in those responses about depends on the player. I need to know the player, etc. So it is about individuals. Not every player will have the same self-awareness or confidence or the same character as the others. So knowing your individuals is crucial. That one about, do I take a player off or do I leave a player on? It might just depend on the individuals. I've got players that I know if I take them off, that's it. If they perceive that they've been subbed on a performance thing, and it might just be I want to talk to them, I may have lost them. Others, I know I can whip off, have a quick conversation with and shut back on, and there'll be no worse for wear. So it's just all about knowing those individuals. And I think the big takeaway for me is this is something that's delivered on the Advanced Youth Award, which unless you work in a professional club, you don't get access to that course. But this focus on the individual and developing these social and psych skills is really important, and it happens bit by bit, but it has to be taught to the players. And I think the big takeaway for me is around, what is it when there's like a moral to a story? What are they called? I can't remember what the word is, but a lot of the stuff Jeff's covered is showing the players that there is meaning behind these examples and getting them to delve into the meaning of, well, what happens if I'm too arrogant and I don't take the opposition seriously? The boxing one. Well, the moral of that story is, if it's the video I'm thinking of where he comes out and he's dancing and then he gets flattened, the moral of the story is he was cocky, overconfident, and wasn't concentrating on himself and ends up getting flattened. So that's been a big takeaway for me, that can we get the kids to sort of figure that out themselves? You give them these little nudges, these little stories, these examples, and they pull out the key bits. And I think that's been a real big takeaway for me.
Can I just say to your point, Tom, about that player that you've brought off, you know, and, you know, they've been subbed, so they think they've done badly. Because most coaches might take off a player, you know, Johnny, come off, Sally, come off, and, you know, leave them there, don't say a word, and they feel that, what have I done wrong? Or, you know, I was rubbish there and the coach don't want me to play and all that like. But what if you said, you know, Sally, when I took you off there, you know, how did you feel? Didn't feel good. I thought you thought I wasn't. No, didn't take you off for that. Didn't take you off for that at all. But here's a challenge for you, Sally. You have been taken off. What are you going to do when I put you back on? How are you going to play then? Or next week, you know, when you start the game, how are you going to play then? So I'm talking to Sally, I'm talking to Johnny, you know, and make them feel, I'm challenging them sometimes. Yeah, I brought you off because it wasn't having a particularly good game. You know that. What are you going to do better next time? How are you going to improve when I put you back? What do you want to do? And that's the kind of thing we need to talk to the players, get them to write these things down that I've mentioned. And us as coaches, we have to train ourselves to be better at being able to do this and handle each player separately. And, you know, it takes time. It takes time for us coaches. It will take time for the kids, but they will be better for it. And I know if I knew this when I was a coach, I'd have been a better coach. If I knew this when I was a player, I would have been a better player.
I think that's the bit that hurts the most with us all on this call, Jeff.
Yeah, I know it. I'd have been a much better player. I know it.
Awesome. Okay, so again, thank you very, very much, Jeff, for your time this evening. Thank you all for joining us. We will be staying on for a few moments if there's any lingering questions. As Jeff has alluded to, and as he's been talking about tonight, the course that Jeff and his program offer is something that at county level we can only aspire to get to deliver something like that, which is why we were so interested in sharing that with you tonight. And I will of course be sharing all the information with you post this, talking about how you can access that course, which we will sort out on your behalf. So if you are interested, if that has sort of piqued your interest, you're not going to find this type of content on any of the FA courses, unfortunately. So this is something where there is a gap and something that you can access. So please, if you are interested, follow the steps in my email when we follow up later this week, and I'll be happy to get that all sorted for you. But again, as usual, guys, thank you very much for joining us. I'm going to press stop recording now so I don't forget, because I always do. Thank you for watching. If you are interested in any of our upcoming Sheffield and Hampshire County FA coach support events, please visit the coach support page at sheffieldfa.com. Thank you.